What's going on, everybody? This is Dylan with our new podcast that I have named Just Gonna Say It, because I'm just gonna say it. And I think you're gonna dig this episode. This is with Austin Woodruff of Runway Audio Cables. We go through a bunch of stuff, just chatting about stuff, which is pretty cool. We talk about cable stuff. We talk about some nerdy cable stuff. We also talk about marketing in the 22nd century, 21st century, 2022, whatever you want to call it, which is pretty cool. That part's over on the Patreon side. So make sure you check out patreon.com/DylanTalksTone if you don't mind. And make sure that you watch that bonus content or listen to it whichever way you want to consume. Also, make sure you check out runwayaudio.com. There is a link in the description of this video and this podcast, wherever you're seeing it. And if you do use that link, it does help us out. So I do really appreciate it. So, let's chat with Austin. Yeah. What's going on?
Perfect. I'm working from home today, so because it's nasty weather and UPS is waiting to deliver packages, and they're not going to deliver them today anyway. So just chilling at home, getting some email work done. So
right on.
Yeah. How about you? How have you been?
Man, I am so busy. So
good.
Yeah. What is there? Sitting on my desk right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 pickups.
Nice.
Trying to get done by tomorrow, but it's just.
What's your turnaround time right now? Like orders? What's your?
I'm trying to keep them under 2 weeks. Like that's, but yeah, I mean, when I met you, we were doing probably, I don't know, 50 pickups a month. We're doing close to 200 now.
That's awesome. What do you think was the pivot, the change?
YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, YouTube, and honestly, I think pandemic stuff, because hobby stuff did really well. So
yeah, everyone is trapped at home, kind of finding their hobbies again.
Yeah. So, and I don't know, since you make cables, how did that affect you? Because you have a lot of like touring musicians and stuff that aren't touring. So it's different, right?
So basically there's two sides of the business. There's like the cable side, which is like e-commerce that we ship those. I mean, I had orders from Singapore and Australia and the UK yesterday. They're all over the world right now. And so that's what boosted, like that is what picked up basically immediately as soon as COVID hit. It was kind of weird. Like there was kind of a 2-week lull right there when everyone was like,
same.
What's going on? We don't know. Like it was kind of like, okay, crap. Like, is this going to really, are we dead? Like, is this it? And then, yeah, it picked back up. But we also, the other side of the company is like the professional pedal board setup stuff. And that's mostly like the touring musicians, at least the church musicians at like the lowest end of, not lowest is the wrong word, but like the smaller end of the spectrum on there.
Mm-hmm.
And so those people weren't touring, and a lot of churches shut down. So those people weren't playing, or they'd like play like once. They do like one big live stream and then record it and then put it out over a month or whatever. Like, so that whole side of the business basically died for a while. And then being in Nashville, when everything kind of opened back up in Nashville, it like it was a day, like literally there was like a 1-day turnaround of like, hey, like I have a show on Saturday and I took my board apart all last year. Like, can we rebuild it? And it's like, I can't rebuild that in a day. And then it's like, okay, how about tomorrow? And it's like, no, that doesn't solve any problems. And then how about next week? It's like, okay, we'll try to fix it in. And so I had to say no to a lot of people because it just opened up so fast.
Turned back on like a switch.
Yeah. Yeah, literally, it was like all of a sudden shows were getting booked again, and they're like, "Uh-oh, all my stuff is taken apart, and I need help putting it back together." So we, it's fun. It's kind of leveled back out a little bit because it's kind of gotten back to normal, especially here in Nashville. Like Nashville, yeah, you wouldn't really know that COVID is necessarily a thing here. Like it's pretty much back to normal.
Well, I'm in
Which is nice.
Georgia, so it was pretty much like that the whole time,
Yeah,
except
yeah,
for the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 months was pretty gnarly.
yeah,
But business wise, it was like 2.5 weeks. I thought I was
yeah,
going to starve to death because we didn't
yeah,
sell. I don't think we sold one pickup for like 2.5 weeks. And I'm like
yeah,
terrified. And actually, this is funny. So I think everybody was scared, obviously. And I got the idea from Cletus McFarland on YouTube. He was like, I'm going to make a video every day for the month of May. And I'm like, I'm going to do the same thing. So that's what I did. And it didn't like build up tons of views. I didn't get like thousands of subscribers from it or anything, but it just kept me in people's minds, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And so it worked. Like, I feel like I want to do it again, but I don't have time now. Like,
yeah.
even doing this. So this is a new thing. This podcast is a new thing for me because, I mean, everybody else is doing it. And
Yeah, yours truly, yes.
yes, yeah, we'll talk about that. So
Yeah,
I want to do a podcast, but I just, I don't know what to talk about because I'm not, I think what it is, I don't like, okay, I don't want to say I don't like going on other people's podcasts, but it's invariably, like right now, if I was going to be like, so tell me about capacitance and cables
yeah.
and it's the last thing you want to talk about. Like,
No, yeah,
how do you design a pickup? Well, I wind wire around it, and if it sounds good, it is good. And if it's not, I try it again till it is. Like, I mean,
yeah.
not
There's
to,
a spectrum, obviously. Yeah.
yes. So
I
just
think
go ahead.
like my MO with the podcast is I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. Like I really don't. I like the true crime stuff, the stuff that has like there's like a story and a plot like across the whole thing, and you're like invested in it and interested in it, like just the story itself.
So what you're saying
Really,
is both of us are like middle-aged soccer moms right now
yeah,
because
yeah,
we
yeah,
both love
exactly.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and um, and I'm not a huge fan when like the podcast, the host and the hostee or whatever, if it's two people or like they're like best friends and they're best friends and like they have all these inside jokes and you're just sitting there like waiting for them to stop laughing. And it's like, okay, like I get it, you guys are friends and that's cool, but I'm kind of bored here, like listening to you laugh. Um, so I mean, I get why people like that stuff. I really do, but that's just not what gets me. I like learning things. I think kind of the MO for our podcast, at least, is going to be like, we want to teach you things, like something you might not know you didn't know, you know. And so, like every time you get on the podcast, you're just learning a new fact, even if you're just picking up a little piece of it.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, we'll talk about capacitance and we'll talk about guitar cables, but also like we'll end up talking about, like how to be a touring musician, like how to like, I have a podcast lined up with a really good friend of mine that just got the gig as the front of house guy for Carly Pierce. And they're going out with Kenny Chesney and all those people. And so it's kind of like, how'd you get that gig? Like he's my age, he's 25. Like, how'd you, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so I think people would listen to that kind of podcast and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of the MO. Yeah,
I'm going the opposite. I'm going the opposite direction. So
yeah,
I already have 1,000 videos about all that stuff. Like not the touring stuff, but
no, yeah,
this junk. Like, pickup stuff and capacitors and all that. And I'm realizing that I made a mistake. I think one of the reasons like the bigger YouTube channels are good is because people invest in the personalities of the people. And I got like so technical, like so fast, and that's what the audience likes. So I put like a vlog out, like, hey, I bought a new coffee pot and now let's go do some guitar stuff. And people hate that. Like,
Yeah.
they want, what does this capacitor sound like, even though I'm not an oscilloscope? Like, that's what they want.
Yeah.
So I have to do that stuff. So this is like, you're my friend, you make cables. I think the reason people buy what we do is because they like what we do. So
Yeah.
if I can share what you do and people like you, then you know what I mean?
I think there is also a piece of like just continuously putting out content to go, hi, we are still a running company. Like, we're still working. I think a lot of companies like fell apart within COVID, like didn't survive COVID. We definitely came out stronger than ever, realistically. And so I think a lot of like podcast stuff and content stuff is just continuously being like, hi, like we are still, like, people ordered cables today and they will ship out today and they will ship out tomorrow if you order today. And, like it's, there's kind of a balance of that right now as well. So,
Well, and I think, I mean, it taught me, I was doing a bunch of stuff and it taught me what not to do. Like, you only have, your audience is more limited. Your ability to fulfill is more limited. Okay. Get rid of everything that doesn't make sense and like, just do the basics. And we had to evolve a lot like that, well, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I send everybody to you for cables. We made cables for a long time and they were really good, but it's like the do one thing good or two things half-assed thing. Like,
exactly.
This is what I do, pickups.
Yeah, you do a great job with them.
So
it's that was the end of last year for us, of like, okay, what can we trim off? So like, we kind of stopped doing a lot of YouTube stuff because we were getting busy, kind of same thing you're doing. Like, we got like orders were just skyrocketing. It's like, we don't have time to make YouTube videos. And that obviously wasn't a big like profit center for us at the moment either. And then, and so now that we're kind of out of that lull and kind of getting used to the amount of orders that are in, and I've hired some more people building cables and kind of at a better place, like we can kind of add back on those pieces. The podcast is kind of the first thing that was added back in, something we wanted to do.
What's the name of your podcast?
It's just the Runway Audio Podcast. We're not doing anything crazy title wise, just because it is a branding opportunity. It's just the whole idea of podcast too is same with YouTube. Is like they live forever, like they live in perpetuity. Like, people can always find your episode. Like, I mean, like, we put out 2 episodes. We're trying to do 1 a month, which doesn't feel like enough right now, but it's nice for the work. Like, I definitely want to get to like at least 2 a month pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then, but people are equally watching our last 2 episodes. Like, I mean, they're like neck and neck every day for views. Yeah, for like listens and stuff like that too. So it's really interesting that it's not like as soon as one podcast comes out, the other's gone. Like they're still both living. So it's cool. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why we started ours is because we do that live Q&A thing on Thursday nights. And we tried to have guests on it, but feel like I'm a little hot. It just it screwed up the vibe. Like, to me, the Thursday Q&A thing is for the viewers, like interacting with the viewers.
Yeah,
I don't think a
yeah.
lot of, I'm not that big. We only have like 67,000 subscribers. So like all of the 200,000 subscriber people, I feel like they don't have that interaction anymore because they're just so big. So this is a way for me to continue that. And so when we put guests in, it just ruined it. Like, it just ruined the vibe of, I'm hanging out with you, like viewers. Like, I want to hang out with you for as long as possible.
Did you like announce who was going to be on, or like before, or was it like just for the moment?
Yes, we did. But it's still, people wanted to ask questions. They wanted to interact. And me and you are having this conversation. And so over here in the comments, they're just listening. They're just taking it in. And it just ruined the feel of, I'm here for you, for the viewer. And so that's why we did this too. But, and then this is going to be video and audio. So, because you guys are doing the same thing, right?
Yeah, but we're like trying to film them live as much as possible. This is great, but we're trying to avoid this for as long as we can, just being in Nashville, but just to kind of like build it all up to kind of add.
Yeah. Makes sense. So I guess we should also talk about, for people that don't know who you are, what you do. You make guitar cables like that. Well, that's how I know you. You make guitar cables. So what do you do?
That's basically the MO. Anything about cables, we do. We're known for our instrument cables. Like, that's kind of our flagship. Like, that's kind of what has put a name for ourselves in the industry. Having the lowest capacitance instrument cable kind of on the market right now, within that market value. But we do all kinds of cables. We do XLR. We just launched our new XLR cables with the new G&H plugs that are insane. They're so much nicer than anything else that's on the market right now for the price point. They're all metal compared to like the Neutrik, like metal and plastic. And the Neutrik stuff, as soon as you like back it off, it's ruined. Like, you're going to strip it, and you're going to like repairing them or changing anything is a pain in the butt. Not that it should break, fingers crossed, but if anything were to happen for one of ours, like, it unscrews nicely and it's easy repair or anything. So
it's funny you say that, because I have these Amphenol ones right here that I was about to use, and they are all plastic.
Yeah. I'll send you some. Just let me know what you need. I got you.
Okay.
To try them out. Let me know what you think.
Yeah.
So we have those. So we're known for our XLRs. The biggest thing of XLRs are braiding or shielding, excuse me. So like most studio XLRs, like even Mogami Gold stuff, is it's all spiral shielded, which is like, as soon as you kink a spiral shield cable, it opens it up. Like, a spiral shield is probably the least amount of protection that you actually get, especially in the studio where you have like 20, 30 cables running all together in a line, and you have different powers and different things. Like, it adds up fast how much interference you have in a studio, or even in a live set. So our cables are braided. They're 98% braid on them. So no matter how you kink it, no matter what you do, you're going to maintain the amount of interference that isn't hitting the cable.
Okay. You just made me think of something, because you said 98%, and you've told me before that they can't say 100%. So they say, let's talk real quick about like the numbers on a cable. Here, let me grab one. This is somebody else's. So, whoops. So if you look at numbers on any cable,
Yeah.
stat wise. So talk about that first, the shielding part, because there's like foil and spiral and
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Foil is probably realistically the best option in the end. Depends on how thick the foil is. But it's going to be way more expensive to produce. And so you're going to be spending an arm and a leg on the cable. And also it's going to make the cables extremely thicker and way less malleable. And way harder to manufacture, like I said before. So,
Because you have to bend it. Like
yeah,
ultimately,
you're never going to have a cable that runs straight. I mean, looking at your XLR cable coming out of your mic, I guess it's a USB, but
yeah,
the same idea, like it's coming down and over and yeah.
So like our humbucker hookup wire. Now this is 24 gauge, so it's like there's 5 wires in here.
Yeah.
And this is foil. But
is it a foil, spiral shielded foil, or is it
Yeah.
like a true foil?
No.
Okay, so
it goes like that. It twists around it.
yeah, so that's technically still a spiral shield.
Oh, really?
So as soon as you like kink that cable, you can see how the foil kind of opens itself up. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's basically the same idea.
Oh, yeah, because you do it a couple of times, and now you can actually see the cable inside.
Yeah. If you can see the cable inside, then obviously radio waves can see the cable inside.
So the only reason it doesn't matter with a guitar is, well, we have a drain line in here too, and the only reason it doesn't matter is because there's honestly nothing going through here. Like, this is no big deal. The coil for us, the coil is where all the noise is. That's where the noise is.
Yeah.
But okay, so
Also, I mean, it does matter on guitar cables because I mean, it's the same situation of like if you put your phone next to a cable that has bad shielding, then someone sends you a text, you can hear a hum from your cable. I've heard it. I've seen it.
so over long distance, especially, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, its whole idea is as soon as you kink a cable that's a spiral shield, then you're just opening it up. So if you can get a cable to run perfectly straight for its whole run, then you're fine. But as soon as you bend it in any way, shape, or form, then you're opening it up to the opportunity to have interference. So.
Interesting. And so the braided stuff, is it more flexible? Even though
not necessarily. I mean, it's about the same flexibility. It depends on how thick the copper wire is inside. I mean, that just varies cable to cable. Our cables I wouldn't say they're any more flexible or any less flexible than anything else in the market. We still put the Tech Flex coating over them, so it makes them a little stiffer, but it makes it so they wrap nicely. But yeah, the braided just protects it, because if you kink a braided cable, it's always basically the braid stays where it needs to stay over the cable, and no matter how you turn it, the braid stays where it is. It just kind of twists within itself. So
interesting. Okay, let's talk for all the super organic people. Let's talk about the oxygen content of the copper, because that's always a big thing too. People, yeah.
So I mean, this day and age, if your cable is not 100% oxygen free copper, then don't buy it. Like even the cheapest cables you can find are and can be oxygen free copper. The biggest thing is obviously copper is the best conductor outside of gold. And then so in oxygen, when oxygen and copper mix, I mean, you've seen the Statue of Liberty, it's all corroded and all. So you're basically just adding to it and making it less and less conductive. So by oxygen free, you're preventing it from corroding or anything along those lines. So like if you have a brand new copper cable that's not oxygen free, it'll sound great that first day. And then as time goes on, it might degrade more and more and more. But as you get oxygen free, and you protect that cable, it should maintain its quality over its lifetime. So
Oh,
that's kind of the biggest thing with oxygen free.
and how do you feel about gold connectors?
Gold connectors, you probably share the same feeling about it with me. I mean, gold is proven to be the best conductor that we know of,
Right.
and but your conductor and your connections are only good as your weakest point. So if you're putting a gold connector on a nickel jack, then you're only as good as your nickel jack, really. It's kind of the whole spectrum of it. So we put gold connectors in everything, hoping that you have gold connectors in everything else that you have. But if you don't, then you're only really as good as your nickel connector on your guitar or whatever you might have.
So we just switched for all of our loaded stuff. So like the Telecaster control plates and, like the pre-assembled stuff.
Yeah.
And our like Strat loaded pick guards, that kind of stuff. We switched over to those pure tone jacks.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they're pure tone's a stupid name, because it's not a tone thing.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking to your point, it's a reliability thing. Like,
yeah,
when you plug them in, they're in there. They're like properly in there,
mm-hmm.
and they don't wiggle around. When you can't like bend them to the side at all, which you can.
Yeah.
With a Switchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just super tight.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we do the review on this guitar coming up, they use a jack. It's like 3 brass cylinders inside, and it has, I can't remember what they're called, but they're like $15. But they're even better.
Yeah.
So you would theoretically, probably on an oscilloscope, only realize a difference in a gold connector in those situations, but reliability really is the main thing, right?
Yeah, and it kind of like, it's not a perfect science, but because it's gold, it usually is a higher quality build also. Like, you're kind of like, if as soon as you get to the nicer plugs, they almost are all gold plated. So like, if your plug isn't gold plated, there's a chance that it's a much lower quality build overall. If that makes any sense.
So you're saying that the people like GHS, for example, that's who you use, right?
G&H, yeah.
Or G&H, I apologize.
Yeah.
They put gold on all their best plugs. Like,
yeah.
So by default, you're getting gold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like there are like Amphol plugs that have gold plated on them, I'm sure. And there are cheaper plugs that have the gold plate. Like, it's not a 1-for-1 correlation here, but generally the nicer the plug you're getting, it just happens to be also a gold plated jack or gold plated plug.
Gotcha.
So
interesting. Yeah, this is all stuff that I researched like a long time ago, but
I mean, again, you're like getting to the point where like, yeah, you have to have an oscilloscope. You have to sit in a room that's like perfectly tuned with like a instant A/B back and forth, and you're sitting in the sweet spot of the room, and like to be able to hear the difference between these two things. And you're never going to put yourself in that situation. You're never going to be in that situation to have to do that. So it's all about just having the best gear that you can afford, I think, is the biggest deal. If you can afford to get the best of the best, then do it. There's no reason not to.
So everything we've talked about up to this point is pretty much reliability based.
Yeah.
So tone wise, what are the numbers that matter there? And see, and here we go. I'm asking you about dumb nerdy stuff, but
no,
we need to talk about it because this is important.
Yeah, this is what's important. I mean, the biggest thing is capacitance. I feel like I say that word 8 times a day, but it's okay. The biggest thing is capacitance, and that's one step back. So in a cable, you basically have a shield and your signal wire that runs down the middle of the cable. So those are running together, and the longer the cable is, the more and more these two talk to each other. And so the effect of them talking to each other basically is a high-end roll-off. So you lose your treble. So the longer the cable and the more these two people talk to each other, the more and more of your treble that you lose. And eventually it just turns into a sound.
Did you ever see the video
else.
we did where we took a 500-foot spool and put an end on it and played a guitar through it?
I have not seen that. I want to see it though.
So when we were building cables, just to exaggerate what happens when you have that length, the longer the cable gets, I just took the 500-foot roll that I was using to make cables, and I just chucked an end on both ends of it. It was bad. Like, really.
Did you leave it on the spool, or did you?
I left it on
lay
the
it
spool.
out.
I left it on the spool.
So that might have added to the problem too.
Yes. Then that was the biggest, like, in the comments. You should have unspooled it. It wouldn't have been as bad. No, it would have been bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a huge park in Nashville, or there's even a runway that we do a lot of our marketing stuff at, and so we have always joked about getting, because we get our cable in like 1,000-foot spools. It's like the length, that basically just a bunch of 1,000-foot spools that we have around the shop, and like taking one of the spools and running it the whole length of the runway, or whole length of the park, and putting plugs on it and trying to play guitar through it and seeing what it sounds like would be kind of fun. Probably you've convinced me to do it. We're gonna do it.
Next time I'm in Nashville.
Yeah, there you go.
So
come on out. We'll go do it.
Well, because I have my van now.
Yeah.
And it has an inverter, so we can go anywhere. So
let's do it.
Yeah. We'll take a guitar amp out, plug it into the van, spool it all out and do it. That'd be a great video. Yeah, we'll do it.
Down. Let's do it.
Okay.
And we got to do it with like a couple different cables to like really show the difference. It'd be kind of fun. Because I bet you could like hear a drastic difference between ours and like a Mogami or something like that. Especially at 1,000
So you'd have
feet.
to buy 1,000 feet of 2319 and
it's a marketing expense. It's fine. We can burn it at the end. It's fine. Or give it away. I lost what I was saying. So basically, so you have capacitance of two cables talking to each other. And so the higher quality cable, the less those two people talk to each other, basically, is generally the thing.
Yep.
So we're moving a lot of stuff to Amazon, like Amazon Prime and stuff like that, because we're trying to get our turnaround time for cables about as right now. Our turnaround time is like about a day and a half, which is nuts because 6 weeks ago it was like 2 weeks. So
really,
we're getting it really, we're getting it way down and things are way better right now, but still frustrating with just like every once in a while a little piece will come out and it's like, I can't get this for a week. And it's like, that just pushes everything back. So, so we're trying to kind of do small amounts of like Amazon Prime stuff so that people, if they need it today, they can get it tomorrow kind of thing. And certain people and stuff like that. So we're excited about that. It's a long project, but it's been a lot of research into like other cables that are on Amazon and kind of like what they're doing and kind of to fit into the market. Cause there's cables on Amazon that are doing like the number one cable on Amazon is like $10 and it does like $78,000 a month in sales.
What?
Yeah. And at $10 a pop. So I'm not delusional in saying that we would ever be the number one cable on Amazon. Cause I mean, obviously a different price point, but I mean, and then like number 100 does like something like 50 or 60,000 on Amazon, but it's also a higher price point. So like, I mean, there's 100 cables that are each doing between $50,000 and $70,000 a month on Amazon. So like, I mean, that market is huge. So we're trying to kind of tap into that a little bit. But there was a cable that said like the lowest capacitance cable you can find, and it said it was 125 picofarads per foot. And like, it took everything within me not to like message them and be like, this is ridiculous. Like, you can't say that. Like this, there's everything that's lower. That's like the highest one I've ever seen.
I was going to say that's the worst.
Yeah, literally. and they like had it in like big letters in like the marketing content. I'll just send it to you. But so yeah, so basically like that cable's 125 picofarads per foot. And then like live wire, what you buy at Guitar Center, like the blue heat shrink cables that everyone has had in their life. Everyone's had at least one of those. Those sit about like between 85 and 110, depending on which one you get. And then Mogami, everyone loves Mogami. Everyone swears that it's better because I can hear a difference, and it's 40 picofarads per foot. So you should be able to hear a difference between Mogami and Livewire, Mogami, or whatever the other competitor is, the Amazon's best selling cable. And then our cables sit at 20 picofarads per foot, which is half of what Mogami is. So you can even hear a pretty drastic difference between ours and Mogami.
So what I want to talk about on Patreon, and maybe because this will get a little deeper, is how you can survive, how you can do this. We'll talk about where you started, where you are, and how you're going to grow, but how you do this with all that out there. I mean, it is a competitive space. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
You know, how we'll talk about that on Patreon, so you can get a little deeper into that. So 40 to 20 is a big difference.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when we do these like shootout videos and stuff, you know, I'm not allowed to say shootout in a title anymore.
Really?
You can't say it on YouTube.
Yeah. Is it? Oh, I see now.
Yeah. You can't say it on
Premier
YouTube.
Guitar, Rig Rundown is also trademarked. I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Premier Guitar sent us an email. It was like, I know the guy, I know John over there. And he's like, hey, weird email, but just letting you know. It's like, oh, cool. Didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't. You told me that, actually.
It's just weird. Like, because the amount of times I hear Rig Rundown now, and I'm like, can't say that.
So what we tell people, because they'll be like, you can't hear a difference. It's not worth $60, blah, 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 whatever the cable costs that we test. And if you can't hear a difference, then it's not worth it for you, because a lot of times, depending on your pickups and the rest of your rig, like how noisy it is, how much clarity your pickups are meant to have, you know, like if you're using,
it's not adding clarity, like you're not adding anything. Like if you already have a bad pickup, it's not going to sound better with a better cable.
Or even just something really dark, like a JB and a Jazz Seymour Duncan, you know, you're just, and you've got a bunch of noisy stuff, and you play through a wah and a fuzz, and the impedance is super weird, and it's possible that the rest of your rig means that the cable, you may not hear as big a difference, but usually it's down to pickups, because the pickups are
on the flip side of that though as well, is like you can only be as good as your weakest link as well.
Yes.
And 9 times out of 10, that cable is the weakest link. Because I mean, I don't know what, even like the middle of the road, like Fender stuff, like what kind of pickups are they putting in that? Like, I mean, the average guitar player, are they really dealing with, like, what kind of pickups are they struggling with?
So the first thing to go, it's the same thing. The first thing to go in pickups, cheap pickups, is clarity. Like, I've got a Mexican Stratocaster over there, and it's just weak and anemic and no sparkle on top. So then you use a cheap cable, and it just makes it worse. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, because what I think a lot of people don't understand in a passive guitar is it is a 100% subtractive process from the pickups on. So the more pots you add, the more cable length you add, the worse cable. It's a completely subtractive process until your first amplifier, which is your first pedal with a buffer in it. So on the instrument side, that's why the cable is so important. Like, because you're only dealing with 300 millivolts and no current, you know, Like, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, back to subscription. I can't talk at all right now. Oh, again. Wow. Subtraction. Thank you. Wow, that was weird. You literally you can't get that number any closer to zero. Like you can't get that number to zero. Like you will never have an item in your guitar or in your rig that goes, oh yeah, it has a zero subtraction. Like there's no tone subtraction in this piece of gear whatsoever. Even with buffers, like you can have issues with tone, even if it is a buffer. So we get a lot of people that when we say like the lowest capacitance cable on the market is you can buy a cable that's right around $350. That is 17 picofarads per foot.
That's diminishing returns.
Exactly. So our cable started at $55. Okay. So, and that's a 10 foot. So 55 to 370, 350, depends on the week really with them. And then, yeah, you would have to back to a room where there's no other sound. It's a perfectly tuned room with $500,000 worth of speakers, and you have an instant AB that has no sort of pop or anything in it between the two to be able to hear the difference between them. And I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's worth $100 or $200, $300,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's why the market side of things is what we say. So it's like
that's
you can
diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Wow. Well, that is a lot of money for a cable. Holy smokes.
And then there's ones that are upwards of $1,000 that hit the 16 mark. And so it's you're never going to get, the lowest I've ever seen is that 16 mark for right about $1,000. And so you're never going to get that number to zero. And I think 20 is about as close to zero as you can get to where you're not taking out a loan to buy a guitar cable. So.
Yeah. Okay. This makes me think of something.
Yeah.
Do you remember, this was before we knew each other, but I'm pretty sure you were around for this. I can't remember the brand, but the guy's name was Captain something. He called himself Captain something, and he had a cable that he swore was the best thing ever because it was only grounded on one end or something. Have you ever heard?
It's ringing a bell, but I can't think of what it is.
It was in all
thing rings a bell, and I can't think what it is.
It was all in the praise and worship space, and he went in there, and these cables were so expensive, and he said if you plugged them in one way, they would be noisier than if you plugged them in the other way, it would be quieter. Have you ever heard anything like that?
I mean, I've heard directional cables, and I don't know how I feel about that, but
what
yeah.
What is that?
What is what?
What for anybody that doesn't need to know this?
Yeah.
What is it?
There are companies that say they have cables that are quote unquote directional. Like you have to plug this end into your guitar and then this end into your amp or your pedal for it to work. And there's not any real science behind it, at least that I have anyone can convince me of. It feels like a very snake oil-y marketing plot. Because think about it, if you're like, oh yeah, my cable, you can only plug it in one way, it must be a great cable. I don't know. If anyone can send me an email, if you have a real, you can convince me that directional cables are a real thing, I'm in. I'll send you a free cable. So if you can send me an email that convinces me that directional cables are a thing, do it. So
I just remember he got so belligerent about it. I ordered one. He figured out it was me and canceled the order.
I do remember hearing about this. I do. I it's ringing a weird bell. Because I think I was following you around that. We weren't friends, but I knew of you and was following you at the time. And
yeah.
And I remember you talking about them canceling the order for something.
Yeah. And it was $85 for a 5-foot cable or something. It was really
Yeah, because everyone
expensive.
sits down when they play guitar. So
Yeah,
it's the only
you
way
have to like sit next to your amp. But I was like, no, I'm willing to do it. And I was like, I will make a 5-foot cable of my own stuff.
Yeah.
I want to know. Like, I was legitimately interested if it was actually a thing. And he canceled the order and he blocked me and, all that stuff. So that's happened a couple
I
of
would have
times.
someone else order it and do it.
Well, I started putting Leslie's name on that stuff. I kind of made a rule lately. Well, we did a couple of reviews where the stuff was literally snake oil. And I literally got like hate from the company. They like started a couple of companies. They started like spamming my inbox. They started doing all this insane stuff like getting on comment threads and this guy doesn't know what he's talking about and blah, 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 blah. I'll tell you what it was. It was that stainless steel thing that you put on the back of a Telecaster that like ties the holes into the neck plate. It was like a stainless steel bar that goes on the back to create more resonance. It was so dumb.
Weighs another 5 pounds.
It was not light.
Yeah.
It makes a good bottle opener. There's like a little thing on the end. It's around here somewhere. I still have, or maybe I gave it to somebody. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, he started, and I told Leslie, I was like, because all these people, especially now that, we work with Sweetwater and a couple other companies now, and we have affiliate stuff, and to be super transparent, I'm like, if I don't like it, I'm not even going to review it. Like, I'm only going to talk about stuff that's good. So that, because there's always going to be well, you're getting paid to do this, so that's why. But if it's not good, I don't want my name on it. Like,
the problem is there's just bad apples out there that are that way. Like, I'm just making money, so I don't really care. Like, they'll pay me $1,000 to talk about this cable, and I love it. Like, no, like it's a win-win. Like, I mean, everyone knows how affiliate stuff works. We're like, hey, like I have not given you a dime except for stuff that you've brought to me. You know what I mean? Like, like if you talk about a cable and you give a genuine review, and if someone is convinced that they like this cable, then you are compensated for their order because you brought them to me. I mean, that's how every industry has stuff like this. It's not just like this scammy music industry, gear industry stuff. Like, it's yeah.
And to be fair, I didn't know about you. Someone else told me about you. Like, someone else.
And I didn't approach you either. Like, it was, So.
No, somebody else was like, hey, actually, so without getting too deep into that person gave me one of your cables and was like, these are like really good. They're supposed to be like the best. I didn't know who you were. And he gave me one and he's like, take it apart and see if it's like snake oil or if it's actually really good or, and I did. And I was like, no, dude, they're really good. And then a few weeks later, he introduced me to you. But, so I found out genuinely, like, finding out for myself, not like, oh, it shows up in my P.O. box because somebody sent it to me and now I'm expected to do a review about it, Yeah. So, because that
I
happened.
think is way healthier also. I mean, and it's nice because obviously I can talk all day about low capacitance cables and why they're the best. And but I'm also on the payroll of that company that sells.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, my word only means so much. So people that are out actually doing stuff and talking about stuff, it means way more. So
exactly,
out in the world evangelizing.
Yeah, and in fact, maybe when we go over to Patreon, we'll talk about that too, because talk about how that actually works, because I think people don't understand like the affiliate stuff. They just think you're getting paid to talk about a thing. So, but that's not really how it works. So maybe we'll talk about that too. Because I think, especially, and the reason I want to put it on Patreon is because I like to think that the folks on Patreon like value what we do. Like that's why they're there.
Yeah.
And so they deserve to hear about it. I think there's going to be a lot of people, no matter what you say in a public forum like this, they're just always going to be like trolls about it. Right.
Yeah.
But so whatever.
It's like, do you get a paycheck from your job? Like, what, like, do you have you gotten a paycheck in the last 30 days? Like, if no, then you probably should work on that and figure that out.
Right.
If yes, then are you like, how do you earn that paycheck? Like, what are you doing to earn that paycheck? Are you going to work every day? Then yes. Okay. You're like earning money. It's so interesting. People like are offended about other people making money. Like, it's so weird to me that people are like upset when other people make money. You're like, do you not? Because the cable didn't cost you any more. It's like if someone buys a cable from your link, they pay the exact price that anyone else. Yeah, they even save money technically. Yeah. But I mean, they pay the same price that anyone else pays. Like, they're not paying you more money just for the fact that, like I'm eating the money that I give to you.
Yeah. Yeah. 2022 marketing is a totally different thing than when I was in the dirt bike business in, the early 2000s, and we were paying $10,000 a month for a full page ad in Dirt Bike magazine. Like, have you ever seen lately like how thin magazines are? Because the advertisers are not even in there.
Yeah.
If you take away like
anymore,
if you take away like the 7 or 8 articles, so if you just took only the 7 or 8 articles that are in like a guitar magazine or a motorbike magazine and took all the ads out, the magazine will only be like that thick. And that's exactly what's happening. Like,
there's no real content, so people are stopping. So but the problem is they can't afford real content because there's no more ads.
It's true. Yeah, exactly. Well, before we go over to Patreon, tell everybody how to find you, and all the things, like whatever you want to tell them to find you and learn more about what you do.
Yeah.
Well, they can go to the link in the description.
Yeah.
And then I make this money.
There you go. Yeah. Click Dylan's link for runwayaudio.com, and pick up a cable. You can go and pick up colors, basically any color that you want. We do custom stuff as well. So we have a standard blue, aqua, red, white, black, and gray. So they're really cool. They're really different. Definitely nothing that you've normally seen before. And then, you get to pick which plugs you like, whether straight or right angle. Kind of our whole thing is once you come to Runway, your research is over. You found the cable that is the best cable on the market. You don't have to go, okay, what cable do I want? What plugs do I want? Like, basically, whatever you choose on our website, you're going to get the best quality cable, just how it works best for you. The quality doesn't change at all. It's just how you use the cable. So definitely be thinking about that when you're picking what plugs you want. And go ahead, Dylan.
And patch cables by the inch?
Yeah, and we patch cables by the inch, and you can pick the plugs that you want. So we have the square plugs, we have the right angle G&H plugs, we have the half profile plugs as well. So it kind of really depends on what your board is and what you're looking for, and what you can fit. So again, all those, we've gone through so many different plugs, and these are absolutely the best ones that are on the market. So you're not going to spare any quality for which one you choose. So
awesome. Well, cool. Well, I'll tell you what, let's just go over to Patreon and talk about money, I guess.
Absolutely.
Man, he's just a solid dude. I really like that guy. The more I get to know him, I just met him last summer, and the more I get to know him, the more I really like him. And I love his products. His cables are amazing. I'm sure you'll be seeing more of his stuff on my pedal board and from my guitar to my amp. I really like his stuff. So anyway, make sure you check his stuff out. I would appreciate it. There, like I said, there's a link in the description. Also, make sure you check out Dylan Talks Tone, because we don't have any show sponsors. So I'm just going to sponsor my own show, DylanTalksTone.com. Make sure you check out our pickups and stuff. And make sure you check out our other content on our YouTube channel at Dylan Talks Tone, as well as our Instagram and all the other things. Until next time, this has been fun. We'll see you soon.